How's it going? I'm Ryan. Today I'm going to go over the three trades that I took. I took two trades on ES. I took one trade on NQ. My first trade on ES was a loss. My second trade was on NQ, which made that loss back. My third trade on ES was a win that put me with a nice positive overall to end the day. So we'll get into that in just a second. We're looking at the daily time frame here on ES. You can see yesterday, massive sell-off. Today, big bounce as well. Didn't quite recover that loss that we had, but quite a big bounce back and quite a lot of volume as well. So we'll take a look at some of the things I was watching here. Zones are the same, didn't change those. I did plot some to the downside that we had, but we didn't move further down. So we had yesterday's low day, we had the pre-market high. I didn't bother marking yesterday's high day because I figured it was very unlikely that we'd reach it. Even on a very strong rally like we had today, we didn't reach it. So a few of the zones we're watching, you see this low here, high here, low here. That was around 5263 to 5265 or so. We have this zone in here, which was support around 5248 to 5244. This swing low here around 5235 to 5233. We have this level in here around 5220 to 5218, and then finally down here at 5200, we'll call it, to 5197. Now, entering the day, we had that huge volatility at the end of yesterday, right? We had a massive sell-off. We kind of formed a base, and then we were trending upwards in the pre-market. In the pre-market, we had news come out that caused us to reject off of this zone, bounce off of this zone, and kind of finish with a bit of a doji. So coming into the day, I didn't have a bias. I was hoping that we would form a trend today, and I would take trades according to that trend, which we did. We had an uptrending day, and that's the majority. Actually, that's all of my trades. All my trades were longs. I did not fight the trend one time today. I actually tried to enter shorts, but didn't get filled on a really nice rejection. We'll look at that and why I was looking at that, but didn't get filled on that. So all three trades that I took were longs, and we trended up all day long, except for kind of in the evening we had this pullback. So the trend was my friend. So let's break it down. So the very first trade that I took were longs right here. So we had this pre-market high, we had this resistance here. We kind of opened the day, rejected off that resistance, broke above it, claimed it, retested it, broke above that pre-market high, set new highs on the day. This 5-minute candle, we came down and tested that pre-market high and held it. I entered a long position on this candle here. Let's take a look at the 1 minute and we'll get a little bit better clarity on this. So after we closed that 5-minute, holding that pre-market high, I entered as we retested right here. So I set my entry point for right at like 422.4, excuse me, 5224.5. Entered here, stop loss was right here. So I had gave myself a decent amount of room, over 2 points. I entered 2 contracts, and this stopped me out right here. Stopped me out and then reversed. That's happened to me before. It will happen to me in the future. It's really frustrating. My target was this 5230. So obviously we didn't hit my target here. I mean, we were half a point away. I probably would have taken that. It was looking at a 50-point gain. So 50-point gain, or excuse me, $50 gain. I took a $30 loss. So just about a 2-to-1 ratio. I actually adjusted my stop loss a little bit lower. I initially had it at a $20 loss, so a 4-point stop. That would be a 2-point stop because I had 2 contracts. I adjusted that stop loss down, which I don't necessarily suggest people do. It caused me to take a bigger loss, but I thought for sure that we were going to bounce here and get this continuation, which we did. And I didn't make my stop loss further down, but I didn't want to risk too much. I still wanted to maintain close to that 2-to-1 risk to reward there. So that was my first trade, and that was my loss on the day. we'll come back to ES in just a second. My second trade was on NQ though. So let's jump over to NQ. NQ, very similar move, right? And I'm not going to go over all the zones. Similarly, we had yesterday's low a day. We had some zones that we were watching, swing lows. We had the pre-market high. I won't get into the depth and bore you with all of that. But I watched NQ come down and hold that pre-market high pretty well and moved up. From there, it made a new high on the day, and it started to pull back into this pre-market high again. I entered a long position on this candle, and I exited once we hit this area of resistance right here. It was about an 18 point, it was a little less than 20 point move. So it was close to like a $40 gain, single contract. And this put me positive overall on the day. Let's take a look at the 1 minute chart as well and see what I was looking at. It's not letting me zoom in here, so we're gonna have to do it manually. All right. So I entered on this candle here. Reason being, I was watching this 1 minute chart. We had this high here, couldn't break it, broke through with big volume, showed we were still bullish on the day. We were still making higher lows, higher highs. We had this pullback. I saw this volume rise here, right? We see this increasing volume as this candle body shrinks. So we have high volume on this pullback, but that high volume coincides with a smaller candle body and a hold of this pre-market high that we bounced off of once before. And at this point, I entered when we retested the pre-market high. So on this candle, I entered one contract, set my stop right here at 18180. So about a 10 point stop loss. My target was right up in here. I sold once we hit up in here. So my fill actually wasn't that great. I did a market buy, so I bought in market. I think that caused me to get my fill somewhere up in here rather than at the market pre-market high. Nonetheless, got about a 20 point move, and that was a nice profit that brought me in profitable for the day overall. That was the last and only trade, first and only trade I took on NQ, but a little bit of a scalp. Now, obviously, we ran up a lot from there. We ran up like another 80 points or more, almost 100 points from where I sold. That would have been nice. I only had one contract here, so I wasn't going to leave a runner, and I sold after we wicked off this zone twice. So we hit once, twice, after I saw kind of that reaction that we got over here, once and twice rejecting off of that area. I didn't want to risk it. So because we did have, higher high and then formed a lower high, and then this could have been a lower high as well. I didn't want to risk it, so I sold on this third tap. I think actually on the bit of the rejection, which could also be part of why I didn't get that full profit, but still about a 20 point gain. So that put me up a little bit overall on the day and recovered from my first loss. Now let's hop back over to ES for my final trade. We'll take a look at the puts that are, I say the puts, but the short position that I tried to get and I did not. And we'll take a look at why. So I'm going to keep it on the 1 minute chart here, but I tried to take a short position in here on these candles right in here. Reason being is look at the volume that we saw. This was almost the highest. It was about tied for the highest volume candle that we had all day. We came up into this area, got two high volume rejections, came up and retested after this wick. I tried to get in on this candle here. I set a buy order, or I guess a short order, right at 5245. You can see that we missed that by a quarter of a point. So my order did not get filled. I wanted to kind of test these wicks in here and then continue down. My target was this right here at 5240. So it would have been a 5 point move to the downside. I didn't want to necessarily try to get like a big move to the downside because we were still very bullish overall, but I saw the volume come in. Also, real quick, take a look at the 5 minute. We had this huge run up with no pullback, right? We had consecutive candles. Also noticed that the volume was getting a little lesser on the green candle, volume a little higher on the red candle. Just trying to get that retest and continuation back down to that level of support. That was the only time I tried to fight the trend today, and I didn't get filled. Would have worked out pretty nice. We had that drop happen pretty quick. Nice 5-point scalp would have been beautiful. But I didn't get it, so I waited pretty patiently. Third and final trade that I did take. So that was one that I did not get filled. This trade I did. So, and I've been setting limit orders, whether it's to short or to buy. And sometimes I don't get filled, but I do prefer to at least try it because it gives me a very, very, very accurate entry. And I know exactly where my entry is, and then I can make a better, more well-adjusted stop loss based on that, and it really helps me with my risk to reward. So not always going to get filled with that perfect entry. Like for here, you know, a quarter of a point off, but had I gotten filled, I could have put my stop right up in here, a 1-point stop. Or maybe slightly above this level, and had, you know, like a 5-to-1 risk to reward. So that's what I'm looking for. I tried to get a fill likewise here, but I was being a little bit generous in terms of where I set my entry. I set my entry for 5-2-3-5, so right here. I wanted to see it come down and test kind of the mid-range of this zone and then get continuation. Why did I want to see that? Because we had this higher high, we got this pullback to form a higher low, we reclaimed this zone and then came back and tested it. And we also had this nice volume and these wicks on the bottom side showing these hammers, indicating that buyers were present and that we were still strong. So didn't get filled here. But where I did take this trade is once we broke out of this downtrend, or not a downtrend, but this resistance, right? We had this series of swing highs, so high, swing high, swing high. Once we broke through and came back down, I got a fill on this candle for one contract, and I filled another on this candle for a contract. I think my average fill was right at 5-240, and my target was this zone in here. Once we pushed up, I sold market for my first, and I set my runner. Initially, I just set my stop loss to right in here at 5-242. And then as we kind of were pushing up, I was moving my stop loss up. So after we wicked and pushed a little higher here, I set my stop loss to 5-244, and then this move down right here stopped me out. A little bit unfortunate because we did get a big run right after that. We moved up, you know, another 12 points, 14 points from there. I was trying to be pretty conservative, or not conservative, I was trying to be pretty loose with my runner. And just I didn't have a set order for take profit. Instead, I was just gradually moving up my stop loss as this was moving up. I wanted to see us break high a day and then continue that run as we did. But kind of each time we set a new low, I would kind of move my stop loss to that area. And once we broke this little swing high here, I moved it up to right here, thinking I was pretty safe. But we did pull back and stop me out right here. And then it ran, and that's just kind of what I was trying to capture. I really wanted to let that runner run and see if I could not have like a really big gain. So nonetheless, it was a 4-point move from my entry. So entered right around 424 or 5-240. My stop loss was at 5-244. Still a $20 gain on a single contract. This put me up $31 on the day once I got stopped out of that runner. So was hoping to see that run, trying to have like a $50, $60 day. Nonetheless, it's still a solid day for me. I will say, and I reiterate it, I said it yesterday, I've been really excited about trading futures. I am absolutely loving it. As opposed to trading options, I love being able to have a very defined risk to reward. On things like this, I can trim my profit, set a runner, and just move my stop loss up gradually as we creep up. Of course, I got stopped out by about a point, actually exactly a point. Like I stopped out by exactly a point. So maybe I should have put my stop right below this wick. But these are things to learn, things I can improve upon and just capture more of this move. But I am enjoying it. I'm really enjoying the process of trading futures. It feels a lot more consistent, feels a lot less volatile. And that's reflected in my ability to be profitable so far. So another day profitable, in the week up green, my account's green. I am pretty stoked. I don't want to get ahead of myself too much. Obviously, still early in the process, but so far we've been able to keep losses pretty realistic, let runners be bigger than our losses, and profitable overall. So, like I said, it's only been a short amount of time, but I have to be happy with the progress I'm seeing. So that's all I got for you. Thank you for watching. I do trade live Monday through Friday, so I'll be here next week. It'll be a short week for me as I'm traveling, but nonetheless, we'll be here trading. Also, I did just want to back out to the 5-minute. I was trying to enter down here because look, we got this pullback, we got this really beautiful hammer candle, so that was a nice place to enter here. The entry on the flag breakout was also solid. Could have squeaked out a bit more profit had we entered in here, but nonetheless, that's all I got. Thank you again. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.